Hi there and welcome to Studio SN. My name is Sara Naumann and today we're Valentine's Day card making with Eclectica stamps. This simple collage Valentine is made with layers of stamping and sparkly heat embossing, and I think if I tilt this you can see the shine on these two pretty stamped hearts. Well, this has been stamped and then with a little bit of heat embossing and some layering on here. Really easy techniques to do, so let's get started. And I'm going to begin with the background of my card here where it says a loving heart. And I want to show you how to stamp just a portion of a quote and then how to build up your background from the bottom all the way up to the top. So let's start here. I'm going to begin with a piece of white matte cardstock. That will be my background, and then of course I need my stamps. So the stamps I'm working with are from the Eclectica line from PaperArtsy, and this is what I think of as my Valentine set. So I have these two beautiful big sketchy hearts. I'm also going to be using this crosshatch pattern down here, and then I also want to use this quote. Now you'll notice that the quote reads, "A loving heart is the truest wisdom," but on my card I only used the first line or the first three words of this sentiment. So let's start down here and talk about how to achieve a partially stamped look. And that's with a simple technique of masking. So I've got my stamp mounted up onto my clear acrylic block. So PaperArtsy stamps are red rubber, but they are cling. So they'll just cling right onto your clear acrylic blocks. Now I need to mask off the areas of the quote that I do not want to have stamped on my card. So to do that, I'm just going to get some washi tape. You could also use masking tape or even clear tape. Any kind of low tack tape is going to do the trick. And I just need to pull off enough to place down over the portion of the stamp that I do not want to have inked up. I have to watch out for the tops of the T's and the I's and things like that as well. I'm going to place this down, and then I've also got a word up here that I want to mask off too. So pull off a smaller piece and then place this on here. So you can see the words that I have left are a loving heart, so that just this portion right here. Then I'm going to ink this up with my ink as normal. Now I'm using the Jet Black Archival from Ranger, and I'm just going to tap this right onto my stamp as usual. And you'll notice, of course, I'm getting all of the ink on the tape as well. So this is the really important part. I need to remove the tape before I turn this around and stamp. So I'm going to press that down, and as you can see, I've inked and stamped only the portion of the quote that I wanted to include on my piece. So that's a nice technique to have in your back pocket as you're stamping. Maybe you want only a portion of a quote or an image. Now for the rest of my card focal, I'm going to stamp the two big hearts together, and I'm going to stamp them just right above my sentiment. So again, I'm inking up using my Jet Black Archival ink, and then I'm going to stamp this just right above, like so. And this is going to be the base piece of my stamped focal. So there I've got this on here. Now what I'm going to do is begin layering up. And to do that, I'm going to create two more hearts from a different cardstock. So I've stamped the heart again. I've done it onto a craft or a off-white cardstock, and also onto some sheet music, and then I cut those two elements out. And then I'm going to be able to layer them on top of my original base piece. But the first thing I want to do before I get into embossing these, I'm going to set that one aside. I want to have a little bit more continuity between the front and the back, or the foreground and the background of my piece. So I'm going to place down this larger heart here, and then I've got my crosshatch design. And I'm going to ink this up as well, again with the Jet Black Archival. And I have this heart just sitting on here. So it's not glued down or anything, it's just setting right on top. And then I'm going to stamp the crosshatch design right on top. And that's going to give me some visual continuity from the foreground or the focal piece onto the background. And it's going to tie in with the overlapping that I have going on over here. Now before I glue everything together, I want to add some sparkle and shine to this heart and to my little one here. So I'm going to do this with some clear embossing powder. And I'm going to demonstrate it to you with a larger heart here because it's the same for both of them. So first I'll get my white scrap paper to do my inking and embossing on. Of course I need to have my embossing powder, and this is the clear hologram sparkle embossing glitter from WOW. And I need to have my embossing ink as well. So this is the Versamark. So what I'm going to do is just take my Versamark, and this is a clear embossing ink, and I'm just going to press it right on top of my cutout heart. And then I'm going to gently lift this up and put it inside my folded piece of scrap paper. And I'm going to cover it completely with that hologram embossing powder. Again, using just the edges of the piece to tap off any excess. And then I can use my folded piece of paper to funnel the rest of this back into the jar. But for now, I'm going to just slide it to one side. Put the lid on my jar, of course, and then I need to heat set this. Now, one thing that can happen really easily when you go to heat set a small element like this, of course you're working on your craft sheet or whatever heat resistant surface you have, but what can happen often is that the air from your heat tool can blow your little embellishment off. So what I like to do is, again, take a little bit of that washi tape, and I've made a little roll of it. And I'm going to just pop this onto the back of my heart. Because it's a low tack tape, it's not permanent, it's just temporary. And then I'm just going to gently press that down onto my craft sheet. Then this way it's held in one place just temporarily while I do my heat setting. And a little tiny piece of that double-sided, or the washi tape will do the trick. And I roll it up so it's double-sided. And then I can just move my heat tool around on here and emboss that gorgeous embossing powder. Now this is really, really hot because it's molten embossing powder, so I'm going to give it just a moment before I start working with it. But as you can see, I've also got another one here. This is the smaller piece that I did on the sheet music paper. So I've heat embossed that one as well. And then what I can do, I'm going to take this, remove my washi tape from the back, and I'm going to bring back in my original stamped background piece. And then I will layer this one here with a layer of foam tape. And you can see how the crosshatch design is really carrying over between those two images. And then I can add the sheet music as well. So I did this one on one layer of foam tape and this little heart with 2 layers so that it has even more dimension on there. So let me bring back in my original card and we can talk about how it's all been put together. And you can see here that I've got the dimension on here. So I think if I tilt this, you can see the 2 layers of foam tape and then one back behind here. But everything is really nicely balanced. And I love having a portion of an image kind of going off from the focal piece onto the background. Now the only other things that I've really added on here, I've wrapped this up with some red and white baker's twine after matting this onto black and off-white and red. And then I added some self-adhesive gemstones around the back here as well, just to add a little bit more depth and variety. I inked around the outside edges of the card front with black ink to provide a little bit more extra polish there onto the card itself. So this is how to create a fun and sparkly stamped card for your Valentine. I hope you enjoyed today's show. For more ideas and inspiration, please stop by my website at saranaumann.com. If you enjoyed today's video, I invite you to subscribe to Studio SN on YouTube, and I'll keep you updated with a new video at the beginning of every month. Thank you for joining me on Studio SN, and I'll see you again next time.